All right, welcome back to the Jiu-Jitsu Mindset. My name is Pete Deely. My partner in crime, Professor Lucas, is tending to the good work in the world with his newborn and teaching duties. So you got me solo today. Uh, as I've mentioned in the past, submission coffee remains unclassified as a performance enhancing drug. So you can go to the jujitsumindset.com and get yours. And I have some new t-shirt designs. So maybe you want to check those out. The divine smiles on us every week. We get to talk to interesting people willing to spend a little time with us. And so I'm really grateful today. I have Professor Scotty Hammonds with me. Professor, thank you for making time for us.
Oh, I'm grateful to be here, man, to talk to you. Absolutely.
And we have some mutual friends who think the world of you. And so I know that person's listening. You tell him we need him on the podcast too. So Salalosi, I know your coach Salalosi has a brown belt, but we want you on the submission mindset. So you put your good influence, if you would, to him. But
Yeah,
today,
Sal's that guy, man. We're waiting for Sal to come on and bless us with some knowledge. Sal's that guy for sure.
that's right. Follow him at Fortitude HQ, by the way. So, Professor, we generally like to start with sort of, almost in the negative, right? Like meaning, had something not happened, what would things be different? And with jujitsu being as important to you and you've dedicated so much time and energy to it, if that hadn't been in your life, how would things be different for you today had you not had that focus and energy go towards it?
Yeah. I actually call it the cost of inaction, right? Being a sales guy, cost of inaction, right? What would happen if
Right.
something never happened? Or you didn't take action, right? So,
Right.
yeah. So how I started jujitsu was, I was working at a tech company, and man, I swear every breakfast and lunch was catered, or steakhouses in the evening or box
Sure.
suites. It was cool, but it got super fat, man. Just working
Yeah.
like the rest of America, dude. Working 10 to 12 hours a day, just not taking care of my body, not taking care of exercise. Just walking steps weren't enough. So I had a good friend, I still have a good friend, who does jujitsu. I grew up down in Tucson, and
Right.
he does jujitsu over there. And he's like, dude, I'm a little biased, but I love Great Baja. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll check it out. Put it in Google Maps. There's one like 3/4 of a mile away. Like, oh, I'll go check it out. And then, I ended up taking my girls. My girls at the time were, man, I don't know, like 5 and 7 or something.
Hmm.
And so took them. So they liked it, and a week later, maybe I tried it and fell in love with it. So I was like, man, this is
Right.
this is cool. Uh, so to get back to your question, man, don't be afraid to steer me back in, because I'll
No,
just
no, that's good. This is good.
okay,
Yeah, yeah. It's a
cool, cool,
family affair. This is a family
yeah,
affair. Yeah.
yeah. So I think, going back to the question, if I wouldn't have started, I was, you know, I'm I was still overweight, still working on it. All right. I'm a big foodie, but man, I think when I first started jiu-jitsu, I was 5'7", like 235 pounds, man. Just,
Hmm.
round. Well, man, we were just working, eating,
Yeah.
chilling. So to get back into it, get jujitsu. So I think, man, I can only imagine what, if I never started training, what my life would look like. I'd be doing well, doing something I'm passionate about, but, I don't think I'd be very healthy,
Yeah.
or my mental health, right? My mental health, that's a
Right.
big one, man.
Yeah.
I was in the Marine Corps for 6 years, and,
Hmm.
jujitsu is, man, it's for my mental health, everything, right?
Yeah.
P, I'm sure you can attest to it.
Oh no, without a doubt. I mean, it's life saving in many ways for me. I'm curious as somebody in their professional life. I mean, particularly, in that sales time period, or sales can sometimes have that conflict undertone to it in a sense, right? There's a leadership component which is trying to bring somebody to a point of view, and that other person may or may not be going gently towards the point of view you're looking to go. So, did training jujitsu affect your perspective as you were in those sort of negotiations and all that? And if so, like how'd that play out?
Ah, dude, so much, right? And this whole podcast is gonna sound cliche because jujitsu will save your life. Jujitsu will help you out, right? You won't. You're just gonna be like, shut up by the end of it. But 100%, man, as cliche as it is, everything, right?
Hmm.
Um, when times are tough and stuff's not going your way, right? You got to just chill out, breathe, relax.
Right.
I think I've been successful as a sales professional because I don't act like one, right? I'm like,
Hmm.
cool. I've always, we could sell a service or I could sell a product. And if it makes, saves you time or money and, so here, sales is easy. Sales is the FAB method, right? The features and how it will benefit you. And if it doesn't,
Right.
I'm not going to try to sell something or give you a solution that you don't need, right? So
Right.
jujitsu is kind of the same thing. You can't force anything, right? You got to be
Yeah.
cool under pressure, as I know you're aware, right? You work in a lot of
Sure.
the same professional settings. So, you got to keep your cool. You got to be confident. You got to be, not too cocky, right? It'll bite you in the butt, like on
Right.
the mat, right? So
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing is just breathe and keep your cool. And just sales,
Yeah.
just life in general, right? Just,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, to me, there's a component of honesty in the underpinning what you're talking about. Like if you're if the position is compromised and you are refusing to admit that this position you should tap here, and you should fight hard and you should do your best, but there are times in which the position it's time to tap. And in professional
Yeah.
circumstances, there are times when what you are offering is not right for the person, and you should tap out of that conversation too. It does only people are only going to get hurt in the relationship and whatever you might say. So I have found that breathing component to find, well, what's the truth of the circumstances. If you can relax on the mat, like, hey, I have a chance, or I can fight my way out, or no, I can't. And if I insist on trying to fight my way out, I'm going to get injured.
Yep.
And in business, I think it's the same way. There are times in which no, you really need to passionately pursue this line of conversation, and there are times to say, hey, listen, I wish you luck, and you know, and it's time
Yeah.
for you to go seek other things. Not everything always has to
I
go
think,
one way.
yeah. And I think a lot of it, like jujitsu, like life is ego, right? Knowing
Yeah.
when to hold them, when to fold them, if maybe some deal doesn't go through, right? To being pissed off or, how do you grow from that? What could I have done
Yeah.
better? Right.
Yeah.
I think I was a blue belt. I used to compete a lot. I think I was a blue belt, and I don't know who. I wish I could like credit the source, but I was watching a video or listening to a podcast, and somebody said, "Treat your wins like losses," and I'm like,
Mm.
okay. And what they meant by that in strictly jujitsu, right? Like we might we might look at film of our losses, or you barely lost, and obsess over that. I could have done this, but if you
Yeah.
squeak out a win, right, I may never watch that thing again. Whoop, but
Right.
treat your wins like losses, even though you won. I'm sure there's a handful of things you could have done better, right? So we could always
Without a
learn.
doubt.
Yeah, we could always learn. Same as business, right? Put your ego to the side a little bit. It's easier said than
Yeah.
done, but you
Well,
know,
when the outcome is favorable, there's little incentive to go, well, let's go examine it, because you think, well, I'll just repeat what I did. And I think it's hard to grow if you're just repeating what you've done in the past, as opposed to, you know, taking everything as, win or learn is another cliche if we're going to do
yeah,
cliches today.
yeah,
And I think of both on the mats and in our business lives, to do post mortems on the victories about, hey, how could have this even been a more profound positive experience? Just like every victory on the mat surely had the seeds of defeat in it. And so, yeah, you watered the right seeds to win, but there's always more you can do. When you think about like the acquisition of skills and knowledge, um, does the learning as a professor, you're obviously teaching people, but you also had your own learning journey. Do you see that as a similar journey to other things, or do you see it as particularly unique?
I would say both, but more unique because
Okay.
I don't care if, I'm a professor, I'm a black belt. I don't care if a guy comes in for a trial class, right? And
Mhm.
he moves a certain way, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, rewind. How'd you do that? They might not even know how they did that, right? But I'm like, I
Right.
I could learn from everybody, right? We're all
Right.
different body types, different upbringing, whatever. I could learn something from everybody.
Mhm.
And I think there's this kind of like stigma where, if you're a higher belt, maybe you can't ask questions or ask advice
Mhm.
because maybe you should know, but like, how are we
Yeah.
gonna how are we gonna adapt and grow, right? If we're not
Right.
helping each other, learning from each other, right? Because we all have something to offer one another, right? And
Right.
then the guy who doesn't see that, like, keep that guy away from me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
No one
Yeah.
wants to be around that guy.
Well, and in when I'm in my conversations with the divine, like I go, well, how come I didn't get to jujitsu until I was 50? I started at 50. But one of the real blessings of starting as a person who conceives of himself as an athletic human being is that now I'm about to be 55. And you know what? I don't care who walks in the door. When I'm rolling with that trial class 20-year-old, person, I have to just concede to certain things. As much as I think of myself as whatever,
Sure.
the reality is that I'm a different physical creature now than I was at 45, 35, 25, and 15. And perhaps I have some things that I don't have, but I have to concede the fact that you know, I can't do everything that I want. So sometimes we're having to put my ego aside. I wouldn't have even made it 5 years in had I
Yeah.
insisted on like, well, every year I should be, whatever. Um, and I think that immediate feedback loop as salespeople, you win a deal, you lose a deal. So
Yeah.
did you do well, and did you tap or did you tap somebody? And were you safe in the process? I don't know. I find those things to be similar. You mentioned you competed a lot as a blue belt, and so both as a professor and as someone on your own journey, could you talk a little bit about the role of competition and development?
Oh, dude. Yeah. 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 So I competed, a lot at every belt, and I think, I've seen you out there at those competitions killing it, Pete. Love to see that, man. I think, as there's two sides of the coin, right? So it's kind of going to be all over the place. So I competed early and often. I
Mhm.
worked a corporate job, a tech job, and wouldn't shut up about jujitsu, right? And those people are like, I'm like, you got to try this stuff,
Right.
it'll help you come out of your shell, help, working with some jerks to let you be less of a bully, whatever, right?
Right.
And they're
Right.
like, dude, I see your social media post, and it's like, maybe I'm sweating or ripping open a gi or whatever. Like, I got somebody in a guillotine or something like that. They're like, I want nothing to do with that. And I'm like, dude, like, 98% of practitioners don't compete. And they're like, well, you're giving off the wrong vibe, dude. And I'm like, oh man. So that was a little tricky. I always thought that was interesting, right? So when I talk about jujitsu and stuff like that, but to go back to your question, man, I think everybody should compete at least once, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
find out so freaking much about yourself, right? It
Hmm.
it's for example, if you and another guy both started together, right? You both train regularly and you compete and he doesn't, you're gonna skyrocket, dude. Right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah, because I think my first 3 tournaments ever, I got triangled, right? And, I locked in for the next, like, 6 months. We were sparring. I'm like, "Hey, can you just put me in a triangle and we'll start?" And yeah, first week, my neck still hurts. It start just crank on my head like, tap, but I
Right.
developed some defenses and some strategies and stuff like that. And I've never been triangled since, right? That's just an
Wow.
example. But if I would have been triangled for a month in training, right, it might have clicked, it might not have, like, oh, that sucks. And to this day, right? So it helps you with the holes in your game at the very least, right?
Yeah.
And to know what you're all about, right? It
Yeah, they tell you have something to focus on. Just by definition, focuses you on it. So I think that
Yeah.
I almost feel as though the less interested, and if the if the lack of interest in competition is anxiety driven, like, oh, I'm afraid to kind of do that, I almost feel like those are the people that would benefit the most from it. And even if it's just the
Amen,
one
dude.
ten, right? And have,
Yeah.
you don't have to be a competitor per se over time, but to have the experience of, I'm going to focus on this event that's coming up at this time, and I'm going to do my best in that moment. Um, and in my athletic life, from a kid to, this old guy with all kinds of problems with his joints, I've had a lot of amplitude of like times when, oh, I was successful athlete, if you want to define it by winning stuff. And
Yeah.
then, plenty of times where I'm just the mascot, I'm the 40 plus CrossFit guy just there because I
Well, that's
want to be
cool
there. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
because one, you're there to be with that community, right?
Yes.
You're
Yes.
hanging out. That like when I got my
Yeah.
black belt, right? Professor Pugh only lets people do speeches when they get their black. No colored belt. Choose your belt.
Right.
Go
Okay.
sit down, right? And that was part of my spiel, man. Like some days, do I want to train? Not really, right? Some days I just want to come in and see everybody or be seen, right? That community,
Right.
that camaraderie, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was kind of craving that from the Marine Corps. To go back to your question, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I hear you, man. So sometimes just compete at least once, or you did CrossFit.
Mhm.
So one, you know, it makes that community even tighter. Two,
Yes.
you you see people at that sport, right? And as we see people in this sport,
Right.
and you've competed and you've had to sacrifice Pete, right? Family
Mhm.
time.
Sure.
You're sore. You got to wake up, get another workout in, right? Drill,
Mhm.
work on your game plan, whatever that is, man. So, uh, at the very least, it lets you appreciate that sacrifice and people
Yes.
that are doing it at that level. Like, man, there's a lot to be said about that, in anything
With
in life.
Yeah, without a doubt, right? And so, I mean, when you think back on either competitive roles or even training roles, um, sometimes I ask this question and immediately it snaps to mind for some people and other people have to think about it for a second. But do you have a role that sticks out as like the most memorable, either fight in a competition or role that
Yeah.
comes to mind? Or
Yeah.
you do? Okay.
I got a couple, man. You're gonna have to tell me to shut up, man. I got too
That's all
many
right. Yeah, let's
stories.
hear them.
So it's a funny thing. My wife make make fun of me, right? Is competing, going back to competing, right? Like when I get nervous, dude, I'm a sales guy. When I get nervous, I start talking, right? So dude, I'm in the bullpen, and once you get in the bullpen, and you try to chill. You're like sizing everybody up, like that dude has a neck tat, like what's happening, man? You know what I mean? Just being honest, and I'll talk to my competitor. Hey, when we're going up, cool. If I'm warming up, and just start BSing with them, and my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, they're just normal dudes. They have kids, they have jobs, they're hobbyists like me, right? They're not like
Right.
trying to kill each other. And she's like, no, you shouldn't. I'm like, one, I'm nervous, two, why not? We're just normal dudes. That's
Right.
it. We're just trying to see if our game plan will work on each other. You talk to anybody that competes, you don't even, see their face. You're just trying to see what you're doing is working or not, right? Or,
Right.
you're getting beat up, one of the two, right?
Yeah.
Memorable roles. So I would just say, well, just the competing. My wife makes fun of me for talking, and I would say, do you know, who Professor Jefferson Moura is?
No,
He,
I don't know Jefferson.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
out of Colorado, old
Okay.
school guy. I think he's a world champion in '99 or '01. Great
Okay.
guy, great Tabata guy, he's multiple time world champ. He's a great guy, right? But he came and did a seminar, in Chandler, and I think a purple belt or brown belt. I've rolled with him a handful of times, but afterwards, like if anybody wants, we're gonna be rolling. I'm like, cool. He's sitting in the corner by himself. He's rolling some black belts, and then he's sitting in the corner, and I think it was a purple belt. And I asked him to roll, politely. Some gyms that's not a thing at all, right?
Huh.
Not necessarily. I don't subscribe to that, right? And he's like, yeah, and he beat the crap out of me, and
Well, yeah.
and the move of the day in the seminar, he's putting it on me, and I'm like, this is awesome. And I had a couple guys kind of tease at me a little bit, which no one will ever hurt my feelings. I don't care, but they're like,
Right.
why would you do that? I'm like, dude, look at it like this, right? Like if you love basketball more than anything, your passion
Right.
is basketball. You go local high school, it's like Kevin Durant shooting free throw. You're obviously you're not even going to get a move on him, but or would you not? You'd be so dumb not to go pick his brain or to play one on one
Yeah.
with them or something like in this sport. If you love baseball, grow up playing baseball, you're not like, hey, maybe I could talk to Willie Mays and learn some of his tricks, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
like that. But jujitsu just happened. I don't know if it's at the age of, jujitsu still an infant stage. We have
Yeah.
access to all these people, or maybe just the
Yes.
location we're in, combination of everything, right? Or maybe people that are, get to that level is there's no, hopefully not that much ego and they just want to learn and teach and hang out as much as possible. I don't know. That's my mentality.
So when you had that role with Professor Jefferson Moore, I'm curious, was the experience of that he was effortlessly moving you, or was the
Oh
experience that he
yeah.
was overpowering you? Like,
No, he was having a
yeah.
conversation with like 2 or 3 other people and like giggling, and I'm like fighting for my life. You know what it's like,
Yeah, I do. Yes.
So it's something like that can kind of spark something in me. Like, dude, like obviously, you watch these, hang out with these guys, or you watch tournaments, and like, dude, hit a whatever sweet armbar set, whatever the case is. But
Right.
like that's impressive. But like somebody just going through an hour of rolling, like just not even breaking a sweat, like, oh, that's
Yeah.
cool, man. That's what I always thought was cool, stuff like that. So I don't think that answered your question. It might have been a
No,
little.
no, it does. Yeah. Well, no, because I think like one of my favorite people in the world is this Professor Jason Hawkins, who wrote a book called Light on the Gentle Art. And we've talked about what is the most memorable of the experiences, and how in jujitsu, the experience of having somebody effortlessly move you, as opposed to other sports where they crush you with like um, I don't know. I think of having boxed a little bit in my youth. I mean, nobody's effortlessly punching me in the face. When they were whooping
Yeah.
my ass, it was like I was being
They were giving you the
overpowered by.
business.
They're giving me the business, exactly. But in jujitsu, that notion of like I'm doing my very best here. I got the throttle wide open, and he's talking to 3 people and reading a book and having a cup of coffee and spending off all my stuff with like no effort. Um,
Yeah.
I think that's an attractive part of what we're involved in. Um, Thinking about your observations of the people who have come into the community as you become an OG and then new people come in. I'm curious if you have a favorite story in a similar manner of somebody who came in and jujitsu impacted them in a way that really stuck with you, that was profound in their life.
Sure. So I think just as like a broad general statement, right? I've been there a good, I think a good amount of time. Uh,
Yeah.
I've seen it all, man. I'm sure you're starting to seen it all too, Pete, whether that be a little kid that was a bully and now he's getting
Yeah.
humbled, a little kid that was super shy, breaking out of his shell, right?
Yes. Yeah. Hmm.
Dude, and I know what's up, man. A lot of people crap on GB, right? The McDojo and stuff, right? Like I get it, man, but I subscribe to the fact that it's for everybody, right? Is it a
Right.
marketing? For sure, man. But I've seen it. I've seen it firsthand. I've seen soccer moms that have been through some stuff and they get confident,
Sure.
right? I've seen guys
Yeah.
get in shape, right? We see it
Hmm.
every day, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to answer the question, to get back to the question, I guess, right? I don't know if I have one instance. I've seen people change their life right in front of me, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
I see it all the time. You just kind of got to take a step back and check it out. And it's hard not to do that. Meaning we see these people every day or every week, same people. We train with them. We spend just as much time with them as we do with our family. We go work, spend an hour or two with them, spend an hour or two with your family, right?
Right.
So we know them. We hang out with them. So it's easy not to 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 see where people to see how far they've came. I guess I'm trying to
Hmm.
say, right? Take
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
step back and like, oh, dude, I remember when you signed up, man. You were nervous, you didn't talk to anybody, or hey, you lost 30 pounds. But you see them every day, every week. It's hey, what's up? Give a big hug, a big smile. But if you take a
Yeah.
step back, like It's pretty cool. Everybody's transforming themselves, whether that be physically, mentally,
Mhm.
spiritually, right?
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. So I would say just, if anybody that's listening that you asked that question, hey, I don't know if I have seen that. Take a step back, check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've observed in my, my time that, um, although the time with the training partners has this real discrete focus, right? We're not necessarily spending all that time talking about anything other than what we're training in that particular day. There's an exchange between us that um, is connecting us deeper than I think we realize. And the ways in which that's presented to me is sometimes something really serious happens outside the mat for someone in the community. And the strength that that person derives from the community is really important. And I think that I try to remember that, and as I'm training, in that you never know on any given day what's going on with somebody. And this might be like a really important hour of the day because either it's a release from something that's really, maybe it's a tough time, or what, it means celebrations to me. It's not always about negative things, but um, it's been remarkable to me to kind of see how important we are to each other when it's not even obvious every single day, right? That we are that important. But that repetition of having to trust somebody, because I think jujitsu is unique in the standpoint that you come to the point of hurting somebody and then don't hurt them. And then that tapping experience, I think,
Uh,
just creates a bond between
like a
uh,
trauma bond.
it's a yeah, well, in a sense, that's what I think competition does, right? It's trauma bond. Oh my God, I'm nervous. Here we go. Let's go together. Oh, we live to tell the
Dude,
tale at the end of the
exactly.
day, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you go with two guys and your wives are there just in the crowd, like, look at these old guys gonna compete, like, it's hilarious. And then you guys go out to eat, like, dude. And dude,
Yeah,
like I said, you're in the bullpen sizing everybody up until like you're about to compete, man. I feel like, on the outside I might look collected, right? But I feel like as soon as I step on that mat, I'm gonna slip because my feet are that sweaty.
yeah, yeah.
Realistically, they're not whatsoever, right? But I'm like in my own head, so yeah, man, it's awesome. And coming from maybe like a professional or sales background, you know, I I need that. That's how I thrive, right? If I sign up for a tournament 2, 3 months out, I have a date. Now I'm locked in, dude. If
Right, right.
if not, I love jujitsu more than anything. If not, I'll go train, right? Just be messing around, won't be locked in. Guys, love guys, pass my guard or start on the fact, whatever, just I want to get better. I
Right.
want to have fun. I just want to hang out. But if I'm locked in, right, I think that's kind of what my professional background kind of, or I don't know, maybe that's just how my brain's wired. Like I need a date,
Right.
right? And Pete,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know you did some like Ironman stuff or some marathon
Yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah, yeah, a little bit.
It's
Yeah.
kind of one and the same, would you
Yeah.
say? Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, all the that's for me, particularly given where I at in terms of, my age. I'm so grateful to have a game day because it does give me a chance to focus, and it does give consequence to the work, and that is useful to me because um although uh though my ambition is to stay with jujitsu from here to the end of my life, having these little benchmarks gives me, and by the way, as somebody who likes to eat, it also shapes my behavior day in and day out in a way that when I don't have a tournament to look forward to, I'm a little less worried about, what I'm doing day to day in terms of food. Um,
Sure.
yeah, so yeah, no, I'm cut from the same cloth that way. Well, Professor, maybe you'll come back another time and we'll keep going, man.
Dude,
Is that this has been
whenever,
a great
please. Yeah.
conversation.
I'll
Yeah,
talk you, I'll talk your ear off, man. I love it.
me too. So really grateful for you, and I'll see you out at our I'm sure the next
Yeah.
competition, and we'll also, maybe we'll get a chance to come down. I'll come train with you, come learn from one of your classes.
Get some rolls in, brother. Absolutely.
All right, my man. Of
All right. Later, Pete. Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
course.
Bye.
Oh,
Do you want me